Well, tonight, just a little update on the situation regarding Iran. So yes, the negotiations are continuing. You might not hear very much about this in the United States press, but there was an interesting article and analysis by a person named Trita Parsi, who is a foreign policy expert on just that very situation. In other words, the relationship between Israel, Iran, and the United States. It was published on the 7th of this month in July, and at the IPS website. I'll try to put a link to that article. So the first paragraph reads, conciliatory noises from Tehran over the nuclear issue have left Washington and Brussels, now Brussels is the EU capital, baffled and unconvinced of Iran's intentions. Having grown accustomed to President Ahmadinejad's uncompromising language, Tehran's new tone has raised more suspicions than hope among cynics in Western capitals. Now, here I want to interject Scott Ritter's opinion, namely presented in his book, Target Iran, that these conciliatory moves are actually nothing new. They have been going on all along, and so the headline here is a bit misleading in this article. In any case, at a lunch with a dozen U.S. journalists in New York last week, Iranian Foreign Minister Mottaki indicated that Iran would likely respond favorably to the latest proposal by the Security Council, the UN Security Council, permanent members, plus Germany. The reasons seem to be that alongside an incentive package that didn't differ significantly from the 2000 package that Iran rejected, a formula may be agreed upon that would enable all parties to come to the negotiating table and save face. Now, again, going back to Scott Ritter's book, Target Iran, this has been going on for 3 years, of course, and the United States essentially is undermining those negotiations. In fact, they're not even involved in those negotiations at this point. They're letting the Europeans do it, while at the same time playing the European Union, the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, who oversees the inspections, nuclear inspections, and Iran against each other. So this is nothing new. This has been going on for 3 years, or longer actually. So this new formula that they have come up with, why and whether Iran would agree to it now, the it being stopping enrichment altogether, uranium enrichment, becomes the subject of much speculation. In typical fashion, Iran has sent contradictory signals. Iran's foreign minister struck, however, an uncharacteristically conciliatory tone in New York, refusing to repeat Tehran's mantra that enrichment is non-negotiable. Scott Ritter probably wouldn't agree with that assessment, because Tehran has actually made many conciliatory moves, and it is perfectly within their right under the nuclear non-proliferation treaty to develop nuclear technology as long as it doesn't go into weapons development. So this is the big negotiating point. And Tehran does intend to, and they are fully within their right to develop nuclear technology under those treaties. And I might also want to throw in that Israel is not a signatory to that treaty. They are not being inspected by international inspectors on their ground. In fact, they refuse any inspections. And so Tehran has actually been conciliatory in that regard all along, although there are some questions, of course, in terms of their motivations. But there is absolutely no proof, solid proof, that they are actively involved in a nuclear weapons development program at this point. And so the negotiations, of course, are ongoing, as they have been for 3.5, 4 years. And the reactions in the West have varied from skepticism to outright suspicion. Tehran is either putting on a nice face to win time, or it has recognized the dangers of an Israeli attack and is showing greater flexibility as a direct result of the Jewish state's muscle flexing. Tehran only responds to force or threats of force and the imposition of new sanctions by the EU, combined with the Israeli bluster, and it has proven that point, the argument says. While Iran certainly may be playing for time, reducing tensions tactically while awaiting the Bush administration's exit from the U.S. political scene could help outmaneuver any effort by Washington to push for additional measures against Iran. The idea that that country is responding to the threat of force remains at best an incomplete explanation of the latest developments. If the threat of force has caused the Iranians to bend, then it remains a mystery as to why Iran didn't succumb 2 years ago, when it was more vulnerable and the credibility of the threat was much greater. Today, oil prices are twice as high as they were in 2006. The Bush administration's credibility is at an all-time low, and of course the 2007 National Intelligence Estimate has made military strikes far more complicated politically, either coming from our side or in European capitals, of course. So the main point to remember is Iran has every right, legal right, under the Non-Proliferation Treaty to develop peaceful nuclear energy. And this is what they have stated that they are doing. Another point to remember is that Ahmadinejad, the Iranian president, despite his fiery speeches, has absolutely no decision-making power to launch any kind of war against anyone. That belongs alone to the supreme leader, religious leader of Iran, Ali Khamenei, and he alone holds that power, and he is very much involved in toning down this rhetoric and wants to negotiate. So people should remember that, because we're not hearing it in the American press. And in Scott Ritter's book, it is very, very clearly explained throughout the years what has been happening there. So I would urge people who really want to look into it to read that book. Thanks for listening. Good night.